Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Danny Laurel, your host in tonight's edition of Bersong EuroPinoy 2021, Con Buen Amistad. How time flies, it's very good to be back in Bersong EuroPinoy. I think this is my fourth or fifth time to be hosting this wonderful event. We've gone all the way to Dumaguete, to Bicol, if I'm not mistaken, and now here we are in Zamboanga. Now, welcome to everyone who are tuned in. I encourage everyone to please interact with us. In the past editions, we got a lot of really exciting comments. So I urge you to interact. But not only that, share this stream. So we'll be going live for a couple of hours. You still have time to invite all of your family and friends. And of course, please promote these events, beautiful events by the EU delegation to the Philippines using the hashtags #EU in the Philippines, #Viva Europa 2021, and of course, #Bersong EuroPinoy 2021. This poetry recital is being presented by the European Union delegation to the Philippines together with the embassies of Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Germany, the Instituto de Cervantes de Manila, and the embassies of Spain, France, the Philippine Italian Association, Austria, Poland, Finland, and of course our partner Ateneo de Zamboanga University. And of course, I'm not alone.
That's right. Thank you, Miss Danny. Buenas noches y bienvenidos. Greetings from Zamboanga City. This is Miss Florame Oliveros Pantaleta from the Ateneo de Zamboanga University. It is my first time to be part of the Bersong EuroPinoy, and I am very, very excited to hear the wonderful poems, especially prepared by both our Filipino and European poets and readers. So in the meantime, may I remind everyone that in keeping with the EU Data Privacy Protection Act, that the whole festival is being recorded, including the chat messages and the talkback segment. Should you opt for your participation not to be recorded, please let the organizers know. Let me now call on the EU Ambassador Luc Veron to provide his opening remarks.
Mabuhay. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to Bersong EuroPinoy as part of our 2021 Viva Europa Cultural Showcase. This is the 8th edition of this poetry recital, which started in 2009 under the framework of Día del Libro of Instituto Cervantes. Why a poetry recital? My instinctive reply would be, of course, because of Charles Baudelaire's vital injunction to himself and the rest of us. Sois toujours poète, même en prose. Always be a poet, even in prose. The beauty of the question is that everyone may have his or her own answer. For all of us, though, culture is what rekindles our relationships. This is also the reason why this year we have chosen the theme Friendship and Partnership. Poetry is only about words, whether we whisper, we shout, we sing them, and yet it's not only about words. It's about experience. Poetry mirrors life. It nurtures friendships and compassion. Bersong EuroPinoy is also a celebration of our languages. In the European Union, we have 24 official languages and many more. And in the Philippines, there are at least 130 languages. These languages represent who we are, what we think, how we think, what we feel, and how we communicate our feelings. Let's make a wish that Bersong EuroPinoy enables us to understand each other better and fires up our passion to create new friendships and partnerships. Special thanks to poets from across Europe, the Philippines, who participate in this year's recital. My appreciation also goes to the colleagues from the EU community and to our new friends, Ateneo de Zamboanga University and De La Salle University. Enjoy Bersong EuroPinoy.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Veron, for that warm greeting. I love how Ambassador Veron has, of course, reminded us that culture reawakens connections in that very cozy couch of his. It really seems that he's going to be enjoying as well this event from his home. Now, culture starts and renews friendships, and I really hope that tonight you will feel the warmth that radiates with every single poem that we will be presenting. You are going to have poets from both the EU and also from the Philippines. Now, Florem, I'm very happy to welcome you to join us here. Of course, you are from Zamboanga. You're dialing in from Zamboanga. Tell us, what is the scene there? How are the arts and culture landscape in Zamboanga?
Thank you, Danny. Zamboanga is a very interesting place. It is a space of convergence of movements, convergence of lives and languages and expressions. And we are working to cultivate more of these different expressions, provide avenues for each of our cultural communities to thrive in the region. If I may tell you, we have the Tausug, the Samabangingi, the Samadilaot, the Jamamapun, the Chavacano, the Cebuano, Maranao, Ilonggo, Tagalog, all of these peoples, all of these different cultures. This is really truly a space that is a space of plurality, and it's always, always brimming with stories and songs. And Chavacano is also still very much alive here in Zamboanga to this day. Yearly, we have celebrations such as Dia de Chavacano, Chavacano Song Festival, etc. So that's
I love that, and we're going to be hearing, I hope, from you as well when you speak that later on, and even from poets from this region. Very interesting how the Spanish influence is still very much alive. And as you mentioned, you were talking off cam how you're teaching literature, and I was asking in what language. Is it Filipino? Is it your languages in Zamboanga? Is it in English? And so it's such a mixture, like you mentioned. So thank you for that, and we will be getting back to you later on. We have a lot of viewers from Zamboanga. Thank you so much. I'm just seeing the comments here on Facebook. One from Heidi Garcia. Hi, Heidi, watching from Ciudad de Zamboanga. But we even have people from Paramag in Bukidnon, and Aime Pantaleta watching from Zamboanga City. Hi, dear Florem. So a lot of fans, Florem. We'll be getting back to these viewers later on. Please do participate. We have some prizes to be giving out later on. All right, guys. So to fire off the opening salvo, Mr. Luis Garcia Montero, we have the General Director of the Instituto Cervantes in Madrid. He will be reciting his original work, Magallanes. He's a professor of Spanish literature at the University of Granada. Mr. Montero held various positions, such as the director of the Secretariat for University Extension. Poet, narrator, and essayist, he has received an impressive list of awards, among others the Adonis Poetry Prize, the National Literature Prize, the National Critics Prize, the Madrid Booksellers Guild Prize, and Carlo Betoki Literary Award, and of course, a lot more. So let's have Mr. Montero with his intro and his obra.
Autoridades, amigos, amigas, es un gusto participar en esta celebración de la poesía hispano-filipina. La poesía nos convoca y siempre es una buena perspectiva para mirar la realidad. Después de estos momentos de pandemia donde hemos debido defender los sentimientos individuales, pero también la responsabilidad social, la poesía nos ha enseñado a defender la conciencia individual como un territorio fundamental para las sociedades democráticas, y al mismo tiempo hemos sabido que esa conciencia individual debe convivir, responsabilizarse en el orden que nos permite asegurar nuestra vida, nuestra salud, que nos permite sostener nuestros cuidados. Por eso, para mí, celebrar la poesía siempre es celebrar la libertad que convive, como convive la soledad del poeta con la lectura y los ojos de los demás, del que abre un libro para habitar los sentimientos del otro. La poesía nos enseña que se puede uno poner en el lugar del otro sin dejar al otro sin lugar. En este sentido, quiero leer un poema que se titula Magallanes. Es un poema de un libro, No puede ser así, breve historia del mundo, donde analizo desde mi conciencia individual algunos hechos históricos que han marcado nuestra historia. Desde luego, uno de esos hechos históricos, y en Filipinas tiene una significación especial, fue la vuelta al mundo de Magallanes. A él le dedico este poema que yo quisiera compartir en este festival de poesía, agradeciendo a todo el mundo su participación, su apoyo y su interés. Darle la vuelta al mundo es una buena excusa para insistir en el poder humano y en su fragilidad. Con todas las heridas abiertas en la voz, después de algún combate, Fernando Magallanes pidió audiencia al rey, le suplicó un salario más digno, mayor estima y cortesano apoyo para las aventuras que estudiaba. Todo le fue negado. Así que frente al todo, convirtió su razón en su destino, cambió de reino, conoció el amor, preparó 5 barcos y partió de una sombra para ensanchar los mares de la sabiduría. Pero llegó a olvidarse de la nada, llegó a sentirse poderoso y no pudo lograrlo. Al cruzar el estrecho que ahora lleva su nombre, después de haber vencido a la luna y al sol, a la tierra redonda y al universo de los sacerdotes, despreció con soberbia la diminuta isla de Mactán. Allí perdió la vida a manos del Rajá Silapulapu. Lo recibió la muerte con un disfraz humilde. Peligrosas las cortes, las fuerzas imperiales, los capitanes rudos, los cañones. También es peligroso lo indefenso. La nave de los cuerdos y los locos da vueltas con el mundo entre el poder humano y su fragilidad. Magallanes probó que llamamos historia a nuestra vocación de sufrimiento.
Thank you so much, Mr. Luis Garcia Montero, for that magnificent reading, as well as reminding us that poetry is keeping us connected and is upholding our individuality. Instituto de Cervantes actually started the concept of Bersong EuroPinoy, and it is remarkable that the recital has stayed on for 8 years until now.
Well, thank you so much, Instituto Cervantes. I'm also an alumni. I did years, I think 10 years studying at the Instituto since I was 10 years old. I think you guys are watching there. So saludos also from myself. All right, so moving from Madrid over to Belgium, actually, en passant à notre prochaine lecture, il est le 4e poète national de Belgique. Ses œuvres ont été traduites en 47 langues, y compris son livre pour enfants Mon papa est un géant, qui a été traduit en tagalog et anglais en 2005. Pour Marcel Moreau, est un morceau qui mentionnera écrit pour son ami Marcel Moreau, également écrivain belge qui malheureusement récemment passé. Okay, so we're going to our next reader. He is actually the 4th national poet of Belgium, and his works have actually been translated into 47 languages, including one of his children's books called My Daddy is a Giant. It's actually been translated into Tagalog and English. Now, this poem called Pour Marcel Moreau is a piece which he wrote for his friend, of course, named Marcel Moreau, also a very famous Belgian writer. Unfortunately, who recently passed on. Another work is entitled Pour Mustafa Ko, un poème dédié à Mustafa Ko, qui deviendra également un poète national en janvier 2022. So the other work is entitled Pour Mustafa Ko, and this is dedicated to Mustafa Ko, who will also become a national poet in January 2022. So very interesting. He created poetry for other poets and also hailing their work. So here, of course, is Mr. Carl Norak. We'll be having a fireside chat with him as well later on, reading his own works, Pour Marcel Moreau et Pour Mustafa Kor.
Marcel Moreau was a famous writer from Belgium and a friend. I wrote this letter poem one day just after his death in April last year, because the words of friendship can cross the borders of time. Lettre vive à Marcel Moreau. Cher Marcel, notre maison vacille depuis si longtemps que nous la portons par le souffle, tu le sais. Les poètes ne respirent pas mieux que les autres. Ils ont dans la voix des cailloux, des embruns et du lierre. Mais ils soufflent sans rien éventer, ils soufflent. Non pas parce qu'ils connaissent du vent une certaine façon de s'enfuir de son seuil, non plus pour prétendre à l'envol sous un ricanement de mouettes ou de passants, ni même pour chasser les nuages. Précisément, les poètes soufflent parce que la maison vacille. La tienne était toujours ouverte, rouge, avec vin, viande, rire. Tu m'enseignais avec un dictionnaire criblé de balles comment tuer ce que tu appelas les poisons de l'ordre. Tu tirais souvent la langue très brièvement pour la phrase sur le point de jaillir. La voilà, avec sa poudre de sens, sa chair de voix, ses copeaux encore. Puis venait ton sourire pointu, qui avait des façons de caresse. Tu plongeais tes mains dans le langage comme d'autres en la terre, dans une ruche, dans le charbon ou les entrailles. Avec toi, sur le papier ou la page des jours, chaque silence avait aussi la volupté d'être brisé. Aujourd'hui, je t'écris avec mes lèvres cette missive. Je m'adresse à toi malgré ce foutu défaut dans l'air mal nommé, cette moins que rature qui t'enleva le souffle. La vie se rapte. La mort pourtant, lorsqu'elle prétendait sortir de son suspens, faire route ou cible, tu lui donnais le change. Tu rapiéçais tes voiles, puis basta. Tu mangeais sur son dos la poignée de terre qu'elle te destinait pour y semer des fleurs imprévisibles. Sache que tes livres s'ancrent vivants, chaque fois qu'on s'en empare. Tout sauf suaire et son carne pour les yeux, visage à l'espoir virulent. Ils pactisent de beauté avec un infini de contrebandes en compagnie de femmes aimées, d'un ciel bien remué comme les derniers dais dans une paume. On y devine même cette maison dont nous parlions, cette demeure qui vacille depuis si longtemps. Et ce matin, par le souffle de tes mots, c'est encore toi qui la réinvente. This short poem was written on special flower seed paper, which was planted in March in the garden of the poet Mustafa Kor, the day of the official announcement of his designation next year as the national poet of Belgium. This poem expressed for me secretly the beginning of a friendship at its first sharing. Pour Mustapha. Tout ce que nous semons ne doit pas devenir une fleur, tu le sais. Certains silences resteront sous la terre. De temps en temps, seul un caillou remontera à la forme heureusement imparfaite. Quand nous étions enfants, nous écartions les doigts pour laisser passer du sable ou de la cendre. Aujourd'hui, nos mains répandent ces semences. Les mots vont rejoindre la terre, l'encre va fondre. De ces lignes souterraines s'échappera sans doute un insecte surpris. Bien au-delà de la surface, je te souhaite, ami, pour les 2 années qui s'annoncent d'autres jardins, où passantes, passants, viendront t'écouter, ressentir bien plus qu'un souffle sur les brins d'herbe ou les pétales, mais d'abord cette voix libre qui t'appartient. qui chasse les ronces, qui se tend vers les autres, sans oublier qu'elle est aussi cette rose qui, comme le disait Paul Celan, fleurit parce qu'elle fleurit, sans jamais avoir besoin de dire pourquoi.
That was just lovely poetry, just lovely poems by the poet, national poet, Mr. Karl Norak. A dictionary riddled with bullets. Each silence relished the prospect of being broken. What a beautiful tribute to friendship.
Indeed, and we will ask him later on what has inspired him to write even during these difficult times. So I agree with you exactly for Rayam. And just speaking of friendship, our next speakers are two young friends. I've actually had them in the past editions already, at least one of them. And she's bringing along her friend. Very nice to see young people enjoying this type of poetry. Dora Sediva is her name, and she's the daughter of the ambassador of the Czech Republic Embassy, Jana Sediva, while Marika Stepkova is the daughter of the deputy ambassador of the Czech Republic Embassy, Miss Jana Peterkova. So here are Dora Sediva and Marika Stepkova reciting Adolf Hayduk's Fortune or Stetsty in both Czech and in English.
I am Malika Stepkova. I'm Dora Saviva, and we wish you a happy European Day. We hope you enjoy this poem. Štěstí, fortune. Štěstí, co je štěstí? Mužka jenom zlatá, která za večera koukne hlavy chvátá. Oblétá ti z kráje, v kadeři se kryje, dlaň hlavu skládá, šňůrka utlačená. Fortune, what is fortune? Just a gold fly flashing, which by light of evening round your head is dashing, circling round your temples, in your curls concealing, while your head you're clasping, crushed by hand unfeeling. Štěstí jako rosa na květech se skryje, ale bludná noha náhle zašlápne. Zašlápnutou zvykne, v oblacích se trátí, snad si ji na tvou kadeři vrátí. Fortune like a dewdrop on the blooms blinks golden, by a step misfooted, suddenly downtrodden, driving down a sad sign with the clouds gone hurting, navy with the hoarfrost to your locks reverting.
Adorable and good work, Dora and Marika. Ngayon naman, I would just like to say before introducing our next poet that in Mindanao, we also have so many languages, as in many other parts in the Philippines. And we are so happy to be able to showcase some of them, 3 of these languages this evening. So ngayon naman, ating ipakikilala ang una sa ating 3 Pilipinong manunulat. Siya ay taga Mindanao at ginantimpalaan ng Makata ng taon noong 2019. Narito si MJ Kagumbay Tumamak para bigkasin ang sarili niyang obra na pinamagatang Pabayan nga Magbalhas sang na ang ginasugba nga indangan na isinalin sa Ingles ni Mr. Eric Nebran.
Magandang araw sa lahat. Ako muli si MJ Kagumbay Tumamak, isang manunulat at tagapagsulong ng pagbabasa mula sa ating mugang Mindanao. Ngayon, magbabasa ako ng isang maikling tula sa wikang Hiligaynon na pinamagatang Pabayaan nga Magbalasang Nana ang Ginasugba nga Indangan. Isang larawan ito ng matagal ng ugnayan ng mga tao sa karagatan. Pabayaan nga magbalasang nana ang ginasugba nga indangan. Sa huna-huna, saan mapauli sa pagpanglayag ang tatay? O sa nga tion, base hindi na. Nahanungod na kung saan ikaw naman ang mangbilin. Isa kahutik, hindi ba laging padako kamo nga hunaw-naon ang lawod, bilang kasugpon, kagkasumpong? Sa huna-huna, hindi tanan nagabalas. Paano kung nabuhi sa tubig? Ikaw, bisan maurot ang ginhawa, o lasing nagabalha sa idalom. O balas ang tanan, o kapait nga base mabilin kag hindi na makapauli, Agod pabalunan liwat sang hakos kagalop. Pabayan nga maanad nga madula, may madula. May nagsirit. Ginimutaran mo ang nabilin nga kapilit sa kainit. Ito lamang po. Unang-una, nagpapasalamat ako kay Editor of Asian Branch sa pagsalin nitong tula sa wikang Ingles, kay Hil S. Mantinola at Adonis Hornos sa pagbibigay ng kanilang komentaryo sa unang bersyon ng tulang ito, at sa inyong mga manunood sa pakikinig at pagsama sa amin ngayon. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat sa pagbabahagi sa amin ng inyong magandang tula, MJ. Napakaganda talaga ng hiligay noon. Napakagandang pakinggan. So before we continue with our next reader, I would like to acknowledge the people who are here with us tonight. Maraming salamat kay Dr. Ivy Esteban. I see in the stream na present po kayo from the MSU-IIT Center for Culture and Art Studies. And we also have our friends from the Western Mindanao State University. We also have in Bukidnon, the Central Mindanao State University, in Davao, our friends there, Sir John Bengan. And I think we also have watchers from SOX, the SOX writers. And also, I think nakita ko rin kanina sa stream si Sir Casey Cordero, Sir Christian, who was also a co-host in the previous edition with you, Miss Danny.
Yes.
So,
Welcome to all of you guys, and thank you for acknowledging all of these people. Lorraine, we're so happy to have you guys back. But also, we would like to have more interaction with our viewers here, and I'm seeing a lot of messages. Maraming salamat. I just want to ask very quickly, no, how are you coping with this pandemic? We just want to know. I'm sure that this poetry reading is some sort of escape for all of us tonight. It's a Friday night. You could be spending it in another way, or maybe not. Maybe we're all stuck at home. How are you coping with this pandemic? So please type in the comment box and tell us where home is for you right now. I think a nice thing about this Bersong EuroPinoy is we're all connected all over the Philippines, particularly, diba? Usually, the events are limited to wherever it's being held, but now everyone is here. Type and tell us where home is for you. And also tell us naman how you keep your spirits up. Okay, so I'm seeing some comments here, some reacting still to that beautiful poem that was just read earlier on. I think it was such a musical language not to hear. Parang even if I couldn't understand it without reading the English subtitle, parang it was very, very musical, and you could really feel the influence of the sea. Waving from Pilar College of Zamboanga City Incorporated. Hello from here, and well done, Dora and Marika. One is actually from Bulacan in the Philippines, so just a little bit north of me here. Buongiorno a tutti, someone from Italy perhaps that might be watching, and good afternoon from the Philippines. So again, thank you so much, and we hope that everyone is taking good care of yourselves, are healthy and stress-free. To help keep your mind at peace tonight, let's all continue with our program. So our next reader has been with the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs since 1994. And before her appointment as the ambassador of Denmark to the Philippines, she was ambassador to Argentina with cross accreditations to Paraguay and Uruguay. Now, reading Hans Christian Andersen's Det er liv et rejse, or to travel is to live. Let us all welcome Ambassador Gret Silasen.
Fuglen vingen slår mod hovedet. Vi må ud af sted. Kundskabsfrugten gror derude. Sundhedsæblet med. Flyve vil vi. Frugter plukke. Alt det herlige, det smukke. Glæde, glæde. Sejl vi hejse. Det er liv at rejse.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Gret Silasen. Hans Christian Andersen is such a notable figure, not only in Denmark, but in the literary world, because of his classic fairy tales such as Thumbelina. I'm sure we are familiar with this. The Princess and the Pea, and we also have the Emperor's New Clothes, and of course, the Little Mermaid. And that's just to name a few of them.
Of course, I remember spending one Christmas actually in Copenhagen just to see the Little Mermaid. It's actually very, very small. The mismo statue of the Little Mermaid is very, very small. I think it's this small. She really is a Little Mermaid. So indeed, Florem, at this point, I want to have a very quick game for our viewers here. I'm just going to open the comments box and please type in quickly. I will ask you guys some questions related to our program, and the first ones to type in the right answer wins a prize courtesy of the European Union delegation. Okay, ready, guys? So my first question is, we just said it. Give me one fairy tale that Hans Christian Andersen wrote. Parang madali naman. Can we make it a bit harder? All right, waiting for your answers here. Oh, no one's answering. Come on, guys, type in faster. Otherwise, I'm going to claim this prize from the delegation. Sige na,
Meron na!
Meron na. Okay, I was hoping for another answer apart from the Little Mermaid, but here we go. Congratulations, Miss Hannah Ray. There you go. Oh, and there's one person here saying she's starting to learn Hungarian. Very interesting. Emperor's New Clothes. Also, very good. All right, congratulations, Miss Hannah. Our next question. Ready? Okay, enough with the Hans Christian Andersen. It's fine. Go on. We will move on to our next question. What is the name, without Googling, of our current European Union ambassador, who, of course, welcomed all of us to this poetry recital? Who is our current EU ambassador to the Philippines? I'm still hearing Tambelina, Little Mermaid. Okay, guys. Current European Union ambassador. What is his name? No one? Without going back and Googling?
3 letters, first word.
3 letters, first word. He, of course, was giving his poem sitting on his very warm couch here. Okay, I don't think we're getting an answer. Shall we move on to the next question? Ayan, Miss Wendy Monte Alto. Congratulations. Luc Veron is, of course, our current ambassador from the European Union to the Philippines. Okay, next question. Ready? What is the name of the Filipino poet who just read his own piece a while ago, entitled, and good luck with me reading this, Pabayaan nga magbalhas sang nana ang ginasugba nga indangan. There you go. Okay, what is the name of our very respected Makata? Of course, we're moving from Hans Christian Andersen over to Luc Veron. Not a Makata, but somebody that did recite poetry earlier on, towards our very own Filipino poets. I think there's a little bit of a lag, Flore, when I'm seeing the answers. I think they're still answering Luc Veron here.
Yes.
We'll wait a little bit, but indeed, our next question is there, who read this beautiful poem earlier on, connecting humanity with the sea. I love that idea. There we have it. Okay.
Oh, there
Mr.
it is, Miss
Darren.
Dani.
There you go. Ben Danilio, MJ, Kagumbay to Mama. Congratulations, and you will be receiving a prize as well. And finally, okay, this one, I like this last question because it's all over the screens. What is this year's theme of Bersong EuroPinoy? I'm trying to remember what the themes were the previous time, but I'm not too sure there was a theme. Probably now lang. So there's a new theme for this entire year of Bersong EuroPinoy. And just interestingly, no, Florim, we were nagkakapapa at the beginning, not knowing how to do poetry virtually, right? And now it seems that this is how things are going to be, and we're very much accustomed to it. And we've had 4 or 5 editions already. So it's something that perhaps even post-pandemic, we should be continuing here. All right, let's see. Friendship and partnership. Okay, is this considered na ba? Okay, I think this is the correct one. Flor de Lisa Pantalena con buen amistad. Very, very close. So both you,
Wow.
Vanessa and Wendy, celebration of partnership and friendship. But we did want the title of the theme, which is con buen amistad. So congratulations, all of you. You have each won a prize. Please wait for a private message from our organizers. They will ask you for your contact details so you can get your prize delivered to your doorstep wherever you are. Hopefully in the Philippines, wag naman malayo masyado. Congratulations again, everyone.
Okay, that was fun, right? Oo, may pa-trivia tayo ngayon. So, congratulations ulit. And make sure to stay with us because we still have some more, we have more surprises for
Exciting
you.
prizes, yes.
And so now, at this juncture, we move on to our next reader. Our next reader is a TV, movie, and theater actress from Germany who will recite for the first time the German translation of Jose Rizal's Huling Paalam, Mi Ultimo Adios. Allow me to welcome Luisa Catalina Davids.
Letzte Worte von Dr. José Rizal am Vorabend seiner Exekution in Fort Santiago am 29.12.1896 in Manila, Philippinen. Lebe wohl, verehrtes Vaterland, Liebling der Sonne, Perle der Südsee, unser verlorenes Paradies. Ich opfere dir freudig mein bedrückendes Leben. Wäre es strahlender, lebendiger und blühender, gäbe ich es auch. Ich opferte es dir. Auf den Schlachtfeldern leidenschaftlich kämpfend geben andere dir ihr Leben ohne Bedenken. Überall in der Welt, Zypressen, Lorbeerkranz oder Lilien, Schafott oder offenes Land, Kampf oder grausame Folter, es ist alles eins, wenn Heim und Vaterland es fordern. Ich sterbe, wenn der Himmel sich färbt und den Tag endlich ankündigt, wenn dir Farbe noch fehlt für die Morgenröte. Vergieß mein Blut, vergieß es gern, lass es im goldenen Lichte glänzen. Mein Traum als Kind schon, mein Traum als junger Mann voll Lebenskraft, war es dich, Perle der Südsee mit tränenlosen Augen, erhobenen Hauptes, ohne Furcht, Sorgen und Scham zu erblicken. Mein Lebenstraum, mein sehnlichster Wunsch, wohlan, ruft meine Seele, die bald fortzieht, wohlan. Oh, es ist herrlich, um dir Flügel zu verleihen, zu sterben, um dir Leben zu geben, unter deinem Himmel zu verglühen und in Ewigkeit in deiner schützenden Erde zu schlafen. Wenn du auf meinem Grab eines Tages eine schlichte Blume zwischen dem dichten Grase knospen siehst, führ sie zu deinen Lippen und küss meine Seele, damit ich in meinem kühlen Grab auf der Stirn den Hauch deiner Zärtlichkeit spüre, den Hauch deines Atems. Lass den Mond mich sehen in seinem sanften Licht, lass den Morgen seinen flüchtigen Glanz senden, lass den Wind klagen mit seinem tiefsten Flüstern, und wenn ein Vogel auf meinem Grabkreuz landet, lass ihn ein Friedenslied singen. Erlaube der glühenden Sonne den Regen zu verdunsten, dass er rein zum Himmel zurückkehrt mit meinem Ruf. Lass einen Freund mein frühes Ende beweinen, an den ruhigen Abenden, wenn einer für mich beten sollte, bete auch du, o Vaterland, für meine Ruhe zu Gott. Bete für jene, die ohne Glück starben, für alle, die unsagbare Qualen erlitten, für unsere armen Mütter, die ihr Trübsal beweinen, für Waise und Witwen, für gepeinigte Gefangene und bete für dich, damit du deine Erlösung noch siehst. Wenn der Friedhof von dunkler Nacht umhüllt wird, wenn dort nur die einsamen Toten wachen, störe nicht ihre Ruhe, störe nicht das Geheimnis. Vielleicht hörst du die Klänge der Zither, das bin ich, geliebtes Vaterland, ich, der für dich singt. Wenn eines Tages mein Grab verweht, Kreuz und Grabstein verfallen, lass den Pflug es lockern, auf dass meine Asche, bevor sie zum Nichts zurückkehrt, zum Staubkorn deines Teppichs werde. Dann ist es nicht wichtig, dass du mich vergisst. Deine Luft, deine Weiten, deine Täler werde ich durchqueren. Ich werde ein zitternder Ton für dein Ohr sein. Duft, Licht, Farben, Rauschen, Gesang und Tränen wiederholen immer den Kern meines Glaubens. Mein wundervolles Vaterland, Schmerz meiner Schmerzen, geliebte Philippinen, höre meinen letzten Gruß. Ich gebe dir alles, meine Eltern, meine Liebsten. Ich gehe dorthin, wo es keine Sklaven, Henker und Unterdrücker gibt, wo der Glaube nicht tötet, dort, wo Gott regiert. Lebt wohl, Väter und Brüder, Teile meiner Seele, Freunde meiner Jugend in der verlorenen Heimat, dankt, dass ich ruhe vom ermüdenden Tag. Lebe wohl, süße Fremde, meine Freundin, meine Freude. Lebe wohl, ihr Lieben. Sterben ist Ruhen.
How nice. So from Spanish all the way to German, no? That was such a flawless translation of course, our national heroes. Very moving last piece. And of course, in line with that, just want to share that the German embassy in Manila, together with the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, will be unveiling an exhibition to commemorate Dr. Jose Rizal's 160th birthday. So he's actually 160 years old already. The exhibit will be featuring the actual furniture of Jose Rizal, which he used when he was living in the city of Wilhelmsfeld, Germany. We forget that he had actually lived there, and these pieces were donated by the descendants of Jose Rizal's former host, Pastor Hans Ulmer, as a gift to the Filipinos. So we can visually retrace a part of his life, which was in Germany, very interesting, via this lifelike setting. So, guys, check it out. It will be housed at the Museo de Jose Rizal in Fort Santiago in Intramuros this summer. So, very much looking forward to the reopening of all of these beautiful, cultural places and exhibits, Florine.
Yes, and there are if my chance na, I would love to check out that exhibit real soon as
Exactly.
well.
Pag pwede
And
na mag-travel.
I'm curious to know how Jose Rizal lived in Germany, and from Germany, we now proceed to France. Our next reader is an actress and marketing consultant who studied business in Paris, France, and Perth, Australia. She moved to New York City to study theater at the William Esper Studio, and her most recent role was Lady Macbeth in the Theater Tita's Macbeth production. So here to read Ami en dernier mot by Victor Hugo is Anne Gauthier Daneve.
Ami, un dernier mot. Victor Hugo. Toi, vertu, pleure si je meurs. André Chénier. Ami, un dernier mot. Et je ferme à jamais ce livre à ma pensée étranger désormais. Je n'écouterai pas ce qu'en dira la foule, car qu'importe la source où son onde s'écoule, et que m'importe, à moi sur l'avenir penché, où va ce vent d'automne au souffle desséché qui passe, en emportant sur son aile inquiète et les feuilles de l'arbre et les vers du poète. Oui, je suis jeune encore, Et quoique sur mon front, où tant de passions et d'œuvres germeront, une ride de plus chaque jour soit tracée, comme un sillon qui fait le soc de ma pensée. Dans le cours incertain du temps qui m'est donné, l'été n'a pas encore 30 fois rayonné. Je suis fils de ce siècle. Une erreur chaque année s'en va de mon esprit, d'elle-même étonnée. Et, détrompée de tout, mon culte n'est resté qu'à vous. Sainte patrie et sainte liberté. Je hais l'oppression d'une haine profonde. Aussi, lorsque j'entends dans quelque coin du monde, sous un ciel inclément, sous un roi meurtrier, un peuple qu'on égorge, appelé et crié. Quand, par les rois chrétiens aux bourreaux turcs livrés, la Grèce, notre mère, agonise éventrée. Quand l'Irlande saignante expire sur sa croix, quand Teutonie offert se débat sous 10 rois, quand Lisbonne, jadis belle et toujours en fête, pend au gibet les pieds de Miguel sur sa tête. Lorsqu'Albanie gouverne au pays de Caton, que Naples mange et dort, lorsqu'avec son bâton sceptre honteux et lourd que la peur divinise, l'Autriche casse l'aile au lion de Venise, quand Modène étranglé râle sous l'archiduc, quand Dresde lutte et pleure au lit d'un roi caduc, quand Madrid se rendort d'un sommeil léthargique, quand Vienne tient Milan, quand le lion belgique, courbé comme le bœuf qui creuse un vil sillon, n'a plus même de dents pour mordre son bâillon, quand un cosaque affreux que la rage transporte viole Varsovie échevelée et morte, et, souillant son linceul chaste et sacré lambeau, se vautre sur la Vierge étendue au tombeau. Alors, oh, je maudis, dans leur cour, dans leur antre, ces rois dont les chevaux ont du sang jusqu'au ventre. Je sens que le poète est leur juge, je sens que la muse indignée, avec ses poings puissants peut, comme au pilori, les lier sur leur trône et leur faire un carcan de leur lâche couronne, et renvoyer ces rois qu'on aurait pu bénir, marqués au front d'un vers que lira l'avenir. Oh, la muse se doit au peuple sans défense. J'oublie alors l'amour, la famille, l'enfance, et les molles chansons et le loisir serein. Et j'ajoute à ma lyre une corde d'airain.
Merci beaucoup, Anna. Super fort. You can feel, the anger and the passion and the way she read and interpreted in a very beautiful way Victor Hugo's Ami on Dernier mot. It's actually Friends, one last word. And we do have several poems to go, so please stay with us. And guys, don't forget, we still have a little bit over an hour to go. So please share this stream so that your friends and family can also watch this literary marathon entitled Bersong EuroPinoy 2021. And right now, just relax, sit back, watch, listen. These are beautiful poems which are read to us from very different walks of life, different languages, different places in the world, and different participating embassies and Filipino poets. Now, in the meantime, we're going to have a short break from the poetry to make way for a beautiful song number.
That's right, Miss Dani. And now we will be showcasing again our language in Zamboanga, which is Chavacano. So we have a song. It's entitled Eternamente. And here to perform it is Miss Kaidi Shayna Palcruz and Miss JD May Natividad. So Eternamente is a song composed by our very own Mr. Alshamir Aripudin, MM, an alumnus of the Ateneo de Zamboanga University and one of Zamboanga's contemporary composers, whose works have also been recognized locally and internationally. So his advocacy is to share more Chavacano music to people in the region, to revitalize the language, and most of all, the musical traits unique to the structure of Chavacano music. So we would like to acknowledge and thank the Zamboanga City government, muchísimas gracias, for having allowed us to screen this wonderful and inspirational song. So here it is.
Tal llegado un instante donde olvida que bien triste y nunca más te puede comprender. Como no hay promesa de un nuevo mañana, te pensar cosa el valor de mi vida. Sin luz el camino y el alma que bien frío, solo y cargando el dolor. Fin en preguntar si el Dios está muy arriba, con mi corazón que finita rezar. Nunca más sueñe escribir un nuevo cuento que viene lleno de misterio, de la alegría. Otra vez hay levantado la vida de alegría y con todo corazón tú hay cantar. Cielo, eternamente el calor del sol, eternamente está volar un paloma de esperanza, eternamente, eternamente un gran amor reina como el mar, donde el río está bien inmenso da correr, como la luna que te abraza y te eleva un infinito promesa eternamente alto el cielo, eternamente el calor del sol, eternamente, eternamente.
Muchas gracias. Was a beautiful rendition. So thank you so much for that performance. And of course, thank you to the Zamboanga city government, which allowed us, of course, to share this wonderful song. Again, Eternamente was inspired and composed by Mr. Al-Shamir Brian Arifudin. So he is, as you mentioned already, alumnus of Ateneo de Zamboanga. Very beautiful performance also by these two beautiful women. Now, guys, let's move on with the program. We still have a lot to cover here. Our next reader is an award-winning Filipino poet, a recipient of many awards, Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards in 2011, 2015, and 2017, and the Satur Apoyon Contest in 2010. One of the editors of Dagmay.com. Let's all please welcome Errol Merquita and his poem, Pangamuyo sa Barangay Diatagon, Lianga, sa Padayong Pagbakwit ug Kagubot.
Good day. My name is Errol Merquita. The poem I'll be reading, Pangamuyo sa Barangay Diatagon, Lianga, is about the longing of peace washed away by the waves for decades. Through literature, I hope to raise awareness on the ugly effects of conflict and war. Pangamuyo sa Barangay Diatagon, Lianga, sa padayong pagpakwit ug kagubot. Lahos ang huy-huy sa imong lapalapa. Mitamak sa balas. Ikambayutan sa tunog ang imong bukton ug kamot. Kumot ang imong paghinam-hinam sa mga saad na natagak sa lapyahan sa Surigao. Kipanlas pagbalik sa mga pao. Buot nimong isinggit ug idanguy-ngoy ang kapait sa saad sa kalinaw nga nakilangoy sa laod. Kung asa, kung naunsa na, ang dagat ray na sayo. Apan bisan anino, way miabot sa lapyahan. Apan bisan paman.
Daghang salamat, Sir Errol. Nindot kayo paminawon ang mga balak sa atong mga pulong. Mas napapakita natin ng maayos ang ating mga nararamdaman. Mas napapahiwatig natin ng buong puso ang mensahe ng buong tula. And I would just like also to acknowledge, kasi parang I think it wasn't mentioned, pero that poem was translated by Mr. Ralph Semino Galan, who is from Iligan and is affiliated with the University of Santo Tomas. So thank you very much. And I would also like, nakalimutan ko, mag-shout out din kanina. Thank you so much, Sir Steven P.C. Fernandez, Sir Tibo, who is also very supportive of us when we invited them to help disseminate this event. So at this point, we would like to proceed to the next poetry reading. And we now have to read a piece by Dante Alighieri to commemorate his 700th death anniversary, a poem called Ogido, o Rima Cinquantadue. Rima Cinquantadue. Here's Alessandro Milani from the Philippine-Italian Association.
Buongiorno a tutte e a tutti, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. I'm Alessandro Milani, I'm from the Philippine-Italian Association, and I'm going to read a poem by Dante Alighieri, the sommo poeta, no? The supreme poet. He's very important to Italy and the Italian language. He's considered to be the father of Italian language, no? Together with Giovanni Boccaccio and Francesco Petrarca. And this year is the year of Dante. We celebrate the 700th death anniversary of Dante Alighieri. So it's really the opportunity to rediscover him and reconnect with his poetical work. So the poem we chose is about friendship. It's not part of the Divine Comedy. It's a short poem that Dante wrote to his best friend, Guido Cavalcanti. And in this poem, Dante dreams that the mythological wizard Merlin, the one of King Arthur, will put them in a vessel and will just deliver them to the sea, a Pacific Sea, an untroubled sea that will facilitate their journey to a specified place where they can discourse with their beloved about the highest topic, like love, for instance. So it's a wish of being detached by the life, the chaotic life of the city, and just enjoy the intellectual company of each other. So let's hear from Dante. Guido, io vorrei che tu e Lapo ed io fossimo presi per incantamento e messi in un vassello che ad ogni vento per mare andasse, al voler vostro e mio. Sì che fortuna o d'altro temporio non ci potesse dare impedimento, anzi, vivendo sempre in un talento di stare insieme, crescesse il disio. E Monna Vanna e Monna Lagia poi, con quella che sul numero della 30 con noi ponesse il buono incantatore. E quivi ragionar sempre d'amore, ciascun di loro fosse contenta, siccome io credo che saremmo noi. Thank you. Grazie. Salamat.
Grazie mille Alessandro Milani for that reading of Ogido o Rima 52, which was a sonnet. So un sonetto scritto di Dante Alighieri, of course, as you mentioned, the king, the father of the language or of poetry in Italian, and it was written per il suo amico Guido Cavalcanti. Now, the prossima poema è ancora in italiano, so it will be a visual poetry from the Italian Poetry Festival La Punta della Lingua. Quindi questa è una combinazione di poesia, testi e immagini in movimento. It's a combination of poetry, text, moving images by Lorenzo Raponi and Stefano Teodori. They are as filmmakers and written and narrated by Luigi Socci.
Adesso vi faccio vedere una cosa, adesso vi faccio vedere una rosa, adesso vi faccio vedere la spina dorsale di quella rosa, perché vedere è un'azione concreta che si fa, una cosa. Adesso vi faccio vedere un video, adesso vi faccio vedere i filmini del viaggio di nozze. Scherzavo. Adesso vi faccio vedere un audio. Adesso vi faccio vedere gli occhi, eccoli, in previsione di un'anteprima, adesso vi faccio vedere in un modo mai visto prima. Adesso vi faccio vedere tutto, adesso vi faccio vedere, ecco, dritto per dritto, franco e diretto, adesso vi faccio vedere vietato ai 18, dovunque guardiate, così come viene, così imparate, da un punto di vista privilegiato, da un punto di fuga raccomandato. Adesso vi faccio vedere come si fa, adesso vi faccio vedere, vi faccio toccare.
Guarda, sì, per me non c'è problema. Fatemi capire, ecco, il giorno, perché io lunedì 6 ho qualche problema tutto il giorno. Il pomeriggio non ci sto. Per il resto sono abbastanza libero.
Adesso vi faccio vedere tutto il visibile e l'invedibile. Adesso vi faccio vedere e rivedere l'imprevedibile. Adesso vi faccio vedere quel che vi piace e appare. Adesso vi faccio vedere... Prego, dalla regia, mandate pure. Per rimanere il meno possibile nel vago, adesso vi faccio vedere un semplice esempio, così mi spiego. Questa cosa vistosa, finalmente. Adesso vi faccio vedere questa famosa cosa. Adesso vi faccio vedere niente, perché lo dovete vedere assolutamente. Chi ha gli occhi ingannevoli, creda. Chi ha orecchie per intendere, veda. Toglietevi i cappucci, toglietemi il cappuccio, le bende, gli occhiali scuri da non guardante. Adesso ve ne faccio vedere delle belle, ma da distante. Adesso vi faccio vedere addosso, vedere in faccia, vedere fisso. Adesso vi faccio vedere che vi sbagliate. Adesso mi fate vedere che non scherzate. Adesso vi faccio vedere per credere, adesso vi faccio vedere con mano. Adesso vi faccio vedere come muore un italiano. Vedere un puntaspilli, trafitto di spaghetti, in divisa d'ordinanza da San Sebastiano, vedere con i polsi segati dalle corde del mandolino legato alla mano. Adesso vi faccio vedere io. Adesso vi faccio vedere me. Adesso vi faccio vedere chiaro. Adesso vi faccio vedere l'ora. Adesso vi faccio vedere gli extra. Adesso vi faccio vedere in chiaro. Con una lente per ogni occhio. Adesso vi ho fatto vedere troppo. Con ogni occhio, per ogni occhio. Adesso vi faccio vedere doppio.
O qualcosa così, qualsiasi, Mario, posso mandare le foto di qualche vestito che ho e decidiamo, non c'è problema. Per la faccia, ma guarda, io ho parecchi amici dell'est Europa che mi dicono tutti che sembro serbo e non italiano, per cui è una faccia sotto questo punto di vista che si presta a queste situazioni, per cui nessun problema.
Bellissima. That was so beautiful. Maraming salamat. And now we proceed. Before we proceed with our poetry recital, let me ask another set of questions to our literary enthusiasts. First, we have this first question. What language was Huling Paalam translated to? That was read by Luisa Catarina Davids. So ayan, kailangan mag-ano na naman tayo. We have to answer quickly what language was Huling Paalam translated to. And it was read by Luisa Catarina Davids. Sige, meron na bang sumasagot? Anong language yun? German. Okay, here we have Miss Wendy Monte Alto. Maraming salamat. So yes, that's German. And we have another question. Second question, who wrote Ami on Mo? Friends, one last word. That was read by actress Anka Fia Danev. So who wrote Ami on Mo? Tapos pa isa pa tayong question. Who can answer the second question? Who wrote Ami on Mo? Friends, one last word. It was read by actress Anka Fia Danev. Victor Hugo. Yes, thank you so much, Miss Baito, Valent Lu Royo. Congratulations. And last question. We have what is the name of the Filipino poet who recited his poem Pangamuyo sa Barangay Diatagon, Lianga sa Padayong Pagbakwit og Kagubot. So, again, what is the name of the Filipino poet who recited his poem Pangamuyo sa Barangay Diatagon, Lianga sa Padayong Pagbakwit og Kagubot? Yes, Miss Charity Anoos, congratulations, Errol Merquita. So congratulations to our winners. The questions weren't that difficult, right? Naaalala natin talaga and parang the answers were faster this time around. So please wait for a message from us so we can get your contact details and we can have your gift from our friends from the European Union delivered. Here to read a popular Austrian poem entitled Love by Erich Fried, Tatiana Platzer from the Embassy of Austria.
Ich liebe dich. Ich liebe dich. Nicht darum, weil du so bist, sondern weil ich so bin, wenn ich bei dir sein kann. Ich liebe dich, nicht wegen all dem, was du aus dir gemacht hast, sondern für das, was du aus mir machst. Ich liebe dich, um meines besseren Ich willen, das du hervorzukehren weißt. Ich liebe dich, weil du Hand anlegst an mein übervolles Herz und alle Leichtfertigkeiten und Schwächen übersiehst, die man nicht übersehen kann, und dafür alles, was schön und gut ist, zum Vorschein bringst, das zu finden kein anderer tief genug geblickt hat. Ich liebe dich, weil du deine Ohren vor den Missklängen in mir verschließt und stattdessen durch ehrfürchtiges Lauschen die Musik in mir verstärkst. Ich liebe dich, denn du hilfst mir, auf dem Bauplatz meines Lebens nicht ein Gasthaus, sondern einen Tempel zu errichten, so wie du mir auch hilfst, dass meine täglichen Worte nicht Vorwurf, sondern Gesang sind. Ich liebe dich, weil du mehr zu meinem Glück beigetragen hast, als es irgendein anderer hätte tun können. Und du tatest es ohne eine Berührung, ohne ein Wort, ohne ein Zeichen. Du tatest es einfach dadurch, dass du selbst bist. Und wahrscheinlich ist es das, was man unter Freundschaft versteht.
Such a moving piece, of course, by one of the 20th century's most popular and influential poets, Erich Fried. Thank you so much, Tatiana Platzer from the Embassy of Austria, for having shared with us that wonderful and endearing piece. We just want to apologize for an error earlier on. Alessandro Milani, who had read that a beautiful sonnet earlier from Dante Alighieri, is from the Philippine Italian Association and not from the Embassy of Italy. Of course, we've had the pleasure of having Alessandro read for all of the Bersong EuroPinoys that we have held so far. All right, let us now welcome another Filipino poet, a Carlos Palanca awardee for the collection of poems entitled Of Monsters, Math and Magic noong 2018. He was born in Zamboanga. Please welcome Sigrid Marian Gayango. She then was born in Zamboanga. Sigrid, who shall read the poem Cuando ya busca yo con el maga palabra.
Hello, my name is Sigrid Marian Gayangos and I'm a writer from Zamboanga City, Philippines. Growing up in Zamboanga, a diverse and multicultural, multilingual city, it was pretty common for us to mix up several Philippine languages in one single sentence. The poem I'm about to read to you today is a celebration of that plurality of identities and that plurality of tongues. This is Cuando yo buscayo con el magapalabra. Cuando yo buscayo con el magapalabra, ¿onde estaba el de mío magapalabra? El maga primero palabra. Tiene vez te puedo soñar na otro lenguaje sin entendimiento. ¿Onde anda el magapalabra? Te procura yo buscar na bolsa del de mío pantalón, el adentro de bolsa tan laylay pa afuera como lengua te descansa. Te procura yo llamar con el magalenguaje para bira conmigo. Como un caballero te llama y ajunta de suyo magakabayo. Ya encontré yo kanila como ya anda pasaya na un lugar que manada pono. El otro te sinta na costado del viejo tortuga. El otro te principia ya correr para escapar. Hinay yo ya atraca, calmao ya sinta cerca kanila. Esta noche aprendí yo hacer fuego sin usar fósforo. Esta luz amo comer con el oscuridad. Hasta bira conmigo el magaperdido palabra. Hasta hindi ya manalang-alang junto queda na di mio lengua el magakabayo y viejo tortuga.
Muchas gracias, Sigrid. Y gracias también con todo kanaton que junto siempre kanaton tan junto ita umi con este todo di aton maga poetry readings. Chani kita dos pa, antes kita chani interactive talkback junto con el di aton Belgian poet Carl Norak, junto con el di aton, y junto también con el di aton maga Filipino poets si MJ Kagumbay Tumamak, Sigrid Gayangos, y Errol Merquita. Next, our reader joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1998. Friends and partners, let us welcome Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of Poland, Jaroslaw Roman Skipankiewicz, with his rendition of the masterpiece Labyrinth by Wisława Szymborska.
Wisława Szymborska, Labirynt. A teraz kilka kroków, od ściany do ściany. Tymi schodkami w górę, czy tamtymi w dół, a potem trochę w lewo, jeśli nie w prawo, od muru w głębi muru do 7. progu. Skądkolwiek, dokądkolwiek, aż do skrzyżowania, gdzie się zbiegają, żeby się rozbiegnąć. Twoje nadzieje, pomyłki, porażki, próby, zamiary i nowe nadzieje. Droga za drogą, ale bez powrotu. Dostępne tylko to, co masz przed sobą. A tam, jak na pociechę, zakręt za zakrętem, zdumienie za zdumieniem, za widokiem widok. Możesz wybierać, gdzie być albo nie być, przeskoczyć, zboczyć, byle nie przeoczyć. Więc tędy albo tędy, chyba że tamtędy. Na wyczucie, przeczucie, na rozum, na przełaj, na chybił trafił, na splątane skróty. Przez której z rzędu rzędy, korytarzy, bram, prędko, bo w czasie niewiele masz czasu, z miejsca na miejsce, do wielu jeszcze otwartych, gdzie ciemność i rozterka. Ale prześwit, zachwyt, gdzie radość, choć nie radość, nieomal opodal. A gdzie indziej, gdzie niegdzie, ówdzie i gdzie bądź szczęście w nieszczęściu. Jak w nawiasie, nawias. I zgoda na to wszystko, i raptem urwisko. Urwisko, ale mostek. Mostek, ale chwiejny, ale jedyny. Bo drugiego nie ma. Gdzieś stąd musi być wyjście. To więcej niż pewne. Ale nie ty go szukasz. To ono cię szuka. To ono od początku w pogoni za tobą. A ten labirynt to nic innego jak tylko twoja, dopóki się da. Twoja, dopóki twoja. Ucieczka. Ucieczka.
Thank you so much, Charles de Fer Sheshepankiewicz, for that rendition. We are now down to our last reader before we go on to our talkback for tonight. He was the ambassador of Finland to Greece and Albania before he took his post as the ambassador of Finland to the Philippines. Now to read Nocturne by Eino Leino, let's please welcome Finnish ambassador Juha Pikko.
Ruislinnun laulu korvissani, tähkäpäiden päällä täysikuu. Kesäyön on onni omanani, kaskisavuun laaksot verhouun. En mä iloitse, en sure huokaa, mutta metsän tummuus mulle tuokaa. Puunto pilven, johon päivä hukkuu. Tuoksut siirtovaaran tuulisen minukkuu. Tuoksut vanamon ja varjot veen. Niistä sydämeni laulun teen. Sulle laulan, neiti kesäheinä, sydämeni suuri hiljaisuus. Uskontoni soipa säveleinä, tammenlehvä seppel vehryt uus. En mä enää aja virvatulta, onpa kädessäni onnen kulta. Pienentyy mun ympär elon piili, aika seisoo, nukkuu tuuliviiri. Edessäni hämäräinen tie. Tuntemattomaan tupaan vie.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Pico.
Thank you so much. And for the first time, guys, we shall have our talk back segment with our poets, which we had featured earlier on. That will be led by Mr. Carl Norak from Belgium. We had earlier introduced him. So may I please call on Mr. Carl Norak, together with our poets from Mindanao, MJ Kagumbay Tumamak, Sigrid Gayangos, and of course, Errol Merquita. Thank you so much for joining us today from all different parts of the world, including Belgium. Bienvenue, Monsieur Norak. Nous sommes très heureux de vous avoir ici avec nous. Quelle heure est-ce en Belgique?
I try to speak in English, but my English is horrible. But
Oui,
I want to talk with my heart. Huh? Here it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, with a sort of tempest of wind.
Oui.
But with you, it's a warm wind of friendship I receive.
Super, merci monsieur. Est-ce que vous avez déjà venu ici aux Philippines?
Je peux répondre en français? Non, je vais répondre en anglais. Je vais essayer.
Oui, allez.
I never have the chance to go to Filipina, and I have a book in Filipina in Tagalog, and I was very proud to be read in your beautiful country. As the national poet here in Belgium, I have to write poetry for newspaper. With 90 poets, we wrote poetry about funeral with solitude, with the COVID, but also to create friendship between different language. We have 3 languages in Belgium, and because we can't have any borders with poets, and we have to share poetry, we have to translate poetry. And this kind of event with this beautiful theme about friendship is very, very important all over Europe, and also to create with poets of your country and for example, with Belgian poets. We have to make anthology because I want to be inspired by Filipina poets. We are inspired by all over the world, by poets from Poland, England, China, or India. And I want to know better Sigrid, Errol, and other poets from your country.
Très bien,
Excuse
monsieur.
my English. Huh?
Ay, ça va.
That's a wonderful
Very,
idea.
very well explained. As you mentioned, the poetry is what connects all of us, and I think now is the time to take inspiration. And speaking of inspiration, maybe we can kick off with Miss Sigrid. What inspired you to take on poetry? Of all forms of art and self-expression, you chose poetry.
Hi, good evening, and thank you so much for having this project or for having this space where we can share our poetry and other works of art. Honestly, I primarily write fiction in English, although sometimes there are things that poetry is the best form to address it. There are certain abstractions that are best addressed in say, a poem instead. So for this particular poem, I was grappling with my baggage of writing primarily in English when I am a Zamboangueña, when I come from a town where we speak several other languages. So this one is actually my first attempt in writing a Chavacano poem, and I hope I did the language justice.
Thank you, Sigrid. And yes, you're right. We really need to still write, more in our language, especially in Chabacano. We have so many languages that are not very visible yet in Philippine literature, and especially in written Philippine literature. So how about we hear also and ask the same question to Mr. MJ Kagumbay Tumamak? What is your center of gravity in your writing when you write poetry?
Okay, maraming salamat. Siguro ay
I think you are. Okay.
audible po ba? Sige po.
Yes,
Sig-
yes.
siguro,
We can hear you.
siguro I write poetry because it's short compared to other forms of literature, but it tells a lot about our human nature. For example, in this poem, which is one of the many poems I've written about or based on these stories of the fisher folks in our area, I was interested in the idea that how they view the sea as their partners for survival, for instance, or in one hand, and but also as their tormentors. Parang ganun, there's a certain duality between being partners and being tormentors. So ganun ko siya tinignan na parang uh, poetry is a parang mirror of our human nature, of our relationship with nature and how we interact with it. Thank you.
That's very interesting. Right, Miss Dani?
Yes, and I just wanted to share with Monsieur Morac parce que Sigrid a dit qu'en fait c'est difficile pour elle d'écrire que c'est pas en anglais parce que pour nous anglais malheureusement c'est notre première langue. Donc elle avait beaucoup de difficultés d'écrire des poésies à Chabacano, qui en fait c'est sa langue maternelle, non? So it's very difficult for her to write. En fait, c'était la première fois qu'elle a tenté d'écrire un Shabakano. Puis ça, c'est vraiment intéressant parce que nous n'avons pas beaucoup d'offres en la langue naturelle de leur ville, par exemple. And then Mr. MJ a dit que pour lui, la poésie, c'est plus court. Donc, c'est plus facile à écrire parce que c'est plus court. Et pour lui, c'est une forme d'écrire sur la nature romaine. C'est plus fluide. Et il a écrit quelque chose sur la mer affronte la nature romaine. So let's move on to Errol. Maybe you can add to that what inspires you and why poetry as an art form.
Good evening, everyone. My mother, my nana, used to tell me that even when I was 10 years old, I used to do poetry, but it took me like a decade to find my voice. What is my voice in poetry? So even when I was young, I really write poems. But when I work as a humanitarian, I've been working with different humanitarian organizations. I found my voice in working with the communities. So most of my works are related to conflict affected, to disaster. So that's where I found the gravity of my work to re-echo the experience of the IDP, the experience of the minorities through Bisaya, through the language, through my um, uh, mother language. So that's, I think, why I'm writing poetry, because it's a combination of my experience and my language.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sir Loy. And all of these are really inspiring, and beautiful to hear because they serve like a behind the scenes with from the poetry that we have listened to earlier. But now I think we can proceed to the second question. So for I would like to address this first to Mr. Carl Norak. I would like to ask you, what keeps you going as an artist or poet? What keeps you going?
Vous pouvez me traduire la question parce que j'ai pas très bien compris.
Qu'est-ce qui vous conduit en tant qu'artiste, poète? Qu'est-ce que vous inspirez? Est-ce qu'il a changé au cours de cette période de pandémie, par exemple?
Je peux répondre en français, vous pouvez traduire, Dani?
Oui, oui, bien sûr.
Oui, oui. Ben, il y a un grand poète qui s'appelait Cocteau qui disait le poète met sa nuit sur la table, il essaie de mettre tout ce qui est au fond de lui sur la table, sur le papier, et en même temps il faut traverser cette nuit de lumière. Et donc c'est vraiment ce que je cherche. La poésie, c'est toujours quelque chose qu'on n'attend pas, la visite d'un mot qu'on n'attend pas. Et c'est aussi pour moi comme autrefois, en France ou en Belgique, on prenait le pain et on le rompait comme ça pour donner deux parties du pain. Et pour moi, il y a quelque chose qui est très important, surtout en notre période, c'est de pouvoir partager la poésie. Et c'est pour ça que moi, j'ai envie que votre événement, ce soit le début de quelque chose qui puisse faire qu'un jour je puisse lire les poètes qui sont ici dans leur langue, parce que c'est ça qui est fondamental, pour regarder le monde d'aujourd'hui, parce que aujourd'hui tous les problèmes sont mondiaux, alors il faut que des poètes du monde entier aient la parole pour en parler, et parce que nous pouvons nous inspirer avec, comme le disait Erol, nos expériences, parce que, comme disait un autre poète, il y a quelque chose de très court, hein, et Sigrid parlait aussi d'essayer d'exprimer ce qui est dans notre culture, et donc ça c'est très important.
Okay, I'll try my best. It's a bit difficult, but you
Excuse me,
mentioned...
Danny.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Oh, I'm not sure. I think okay. No, I think you mentioned that the words. It's not something that we wait for, but it just comes to us naturally. And also, he highlighted how this is a chance, a springboard for everybody to discuss, especially during this period. No, he highlighted the fact that in this period of pandemic, and he recognized, as you said, MJ, that poetry is short. It's something that can be delivered quickly and understood among others. And this is actually something that inspires him. He's here to be able to communicate and to get inspiration from different forms of poetry. I think he specifically said, Sigrid as well. He recognized that you are doing it in your own language, and it's something that he would like to understand and have a closer connection to. He had mentioned earlier that he's never been to the Philippines, and this is something that allows him to connect with you, especially during this difficult times. I hope I'm not sure I translated that very well, but nevertheless, I think
Wonderful, thank you.
this is a message that he wanted to share with us. Thank you, Carla. And I wanted to ask this as well. Maybe for Sigrid, let's move back to you. What is your advice to young poets with us in our audience? No, like these people are taking their Friday night to sit here and watch poetry reading, which is not something that every university student would want to do, or anybody, very very rare. And how do we inculcate more of this culture and this love for the language, particularly with the young people?
Right. As with everything, writing is a skill. And because it's a skill, sometimes it's a nature or nurture thing. Sometimes, most of the time rather, it's something that you develop through time, through sustained practice. So I would say there's really no substitute except to just keep on writing one word at a time and to keep on reading.
Thank you, Sigrid. How about Sir MJ? What is your advice? What can you say? Anong maipapayo mo sa mga poets natin na nanonood ngayon?
Siguro my main advice to aspiring poets is to read a lot of poetry or consume, and not just one type of poetry, but diverse forms of poetry. So we've seen kanina that we have visual poetry, we have traditional forms of poetry. So expose yourself to different forms of poetry, so you could enrich your one, or you could find your own style someday. That's it. Read a lot of poetry.
Daghang salamat, Sir MJ. And let's go to Sir Errol also. Paminawo natin nato ang iyahang tubag pod sa same na question nato. So, unsa ba nang imo ang maingon sa atong mga audience na interesado mo sulat og poetry or balak?
Thank you, Miss Flo. As for my case, no, I find my muse in watching good movies, listening to music, and being sensible to what's happening in your environment.
Mm.
That's coupled with reading. Those are my impetus in writing a good poetry. So I'm encouraging the poet to expose yourself to different kinds of experience. Do not mind if that is good now, because poetry is a living document that later you can edit, or you can find a good one to just enjoy the experience.
Daghang salamat, Sir Errol. Miss Danny, would you like to add anything or ask anything else?
Yeah, maybe pour Monsieur Norak, elle a dit, par exemple, que exposez-vous, parce que la, la question était, c'est comment pour les jeunes personnes, qu'est-ce que votre conseil pour les jeunes poètes que vous commencez à écrire? Et la Madame Sigrid a dit que jusqu'à tout doit tenter, toujours écrire. En fait, TJ a dit aussi, exposez-vous à type différent de poésie, parce qu'il y a poésie à pour tout. Donc, ce n'est pas seulement le type écrit. Par exemple, avant, on a vu le type de film. Un type de film, c'est comme en poésie aussi, les autres formes d'art aussi. Et enfin, lui a dit aussi que l'expérience, garder les films, c'est toujours déjà un type de poésie. Donc, c'est dans les quotidiennes, cette expérience est déjà en commencé de devenir un poète. Et pour vous, qu'est-ce qui est votre conseil pour les jeunes? Est-ce que ça s'est changé quand vous étiez jeune maintenant?
I'm agree with Harold when he says about uh, today the cinema, the music are inspiration for poetry. All we see in the world, it give us some inspiration. For the young poets in Belgium, we made a lot of action to read poetry in the street, to write poetry on the walls, to make video, to have the Facebook or things like that to share poetry with very a lot of people, more than only with books. But our expect our project is to return to books, to have to give the desire to go to a bookshop and to take poetry like a little treasure with you, and to go to your island in your mind with some poem. And I try to make some concrete projects, and that's why I propose to have the poem of the two poets here in Filipina and to publish them in the national website of Poetry of Belgium.
Wow.
We can publish them in English because we have the version. I can try to have translation in French, perhaps for the first time for some poets. It's very important. It's to give the possibility with one click on your screen to see a poem who are the imagination of the three poets we are with us today.
Okay, so let's hope that this project happens right after this event. That would be very, very
It's
nice.
sure, it's sure. I need to have only the poem on my webmail and to have the contact with the poets.
All right. Merci beaucoup for that suggestion. And we really will look forward to seeing that happening. In fact, je voudrais dire, there's one person watching all the way from Malta. I love this. So this is an event with the Belgian national poet, with somebody from Zamboanga, and then there's somebody from Malta, watching our stream right now. And as you mentioned, the different languages still connected by the same experience of the human nature. So thank you so much for that. I think we were checking in and whether we have some questions from the audience. Maybe if you have a couple of questions, we can take some of them. But nevertheless,
Yes.
go ahead.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Let's. There's one question here that I keep
Okay, go
seeing
ahead.
that keeps popping up. We have from our dean from the School of Liberal Arts, Dr. Robin de los Reyes. We have a question: has any of the present poets written a poem about the pandemic? So,
Très bien.
anyone could answer? Sino ba yung... Yes, okay, we have Sir Errol. Sige po.
Yes, I wrote a poem. It was a children's poem. It was collected by Eugene Evasco. So during the pandemic, I wrote about, the title is Kung If. So it's about if the
If.
kid can go out, if the kids can go out, if the time
Okay.
will come, he or she will do this.
Oh. That would be a nice a nice uh, poem to give to our kids so they understand better what's happening around them, especially during the pandemic. There's so many new things going on, new rules, new regulations. So thank you so much for sharing that, Sir Errol Marquita. Yes, I think Mr. Carl Norak would like to answer.
Yes, just a few words. We create here in Belgium an action called Flowers of Funerals, and I asked to 90 different poets of the three languages if they are agreed to write a poem about pandemics, but for the family. Then, when the family asked for a poem because the funeral was there with very less people, a few people only, with a kind of solitude, and we call the family by phone and to know about the man or the woman who died, and we wrote more than 150 poetry directly for families, and they used this poetry was very special for them, uh, um, for the funerals to have a moment of beauty, a moment of uh, to share a personal portrait. Because when you look at the television, you see you have a certain number of dead today, and it's like statistics. And we want to phone all the family to 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 try to create a poem about one person in his identity.
That's so beautiful because indeed it's become numbers, statistics, and we lose the personal stories behind all of
Mm.
these figures, millions of figures that have a very personal stories that we need to give a voice to. So thank you so much, everybody, for your participation. Monsieur Norak, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having all of you and everybody from all the way from Zamboanga as well this evening. And to our audience, thank you so much for your feedback. I love this session, especially when it's so interactive. Again, those were, of course, Mr. Carl Norak, MJ Kagumbay Tumamak, Sigrid Gayangos, and Errol Merquita, giving us their precious time during this talkback segment.
Maraming salamat sa lahat. Maraming salamat si Grid, MJ, Sir Errol, at Carl Norak. Okay.
All right, so we are closing Bersong EuroPinoy, guys, with a message from Ateneo de Zamboanga University President Father Karel San Juan.
On behalf of the Ateneo de Zamboanga University, I would like to thank everyone responsible for making this creative vision into a reality. This poetry recital event, Verses versus the Virus, as part of the European Union EuroPinoy 2021 Literary Festival. In particular, we thank the European Union delegation to the Philippines. The global pandemic can immobilize us into inaction, stagnation, depression. And we have to fight these tendencies by things that are located within our souls. At the depths of our hearts, those that bind our communities, ignite our spirits, harmonize our understanding. This, then, will recharge our faith, rekindle our hope, burn our hearts for greater loving. This will unleash our creative instincts, defining possible solutions and directions to move our darkening world towards the light. Thank you for bringing this light of hope and faith through verses of poetry. Thank you for the beauty of verses that capture our shared culture and spirit. Thank you for our friendship transcending beyond borders. May this friendship grow and deepen in our common journey of life and loving. Muchas gracias a todos.
Thank you to the Ateneo de Zamboanga President, Father Karel San Juan, of the Society of Jesus for that wonderful and just very heartwarming message. And thank you so much to everyone. We have reached this point. Thank you to everyone who made this Bersong EuroPinoy edition possible. Thank you so much, Danny. It was a pleasure. It has been a pleasure. See you all next week. Otra vez, Ioste, si Florem Oliveros Pantaleta. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias también, Florim. You are a great co-host, and we hope to meet you non-virtually next time. And to all our dear viewers, join us again and the EU, of course, for another edition of Bersong EuroPinoy. That's 2021 with the De La Salle University this time. That is on May 28th at 5 p.m. I'll be hosting that as well, so I'm very excited for that. And of course, watch out for the EuroPinoy concert that's on June 4th and the Copernicus Space webinar that's on June 25th. Follow us on this Facebook page. Again, I'm Dr. Danny Laurel. Have a pleasant evening, everyone.